Welcome to the unknown, a place where ghosts, cryptids, and extraterrestrials are sought. This is where you'll find answers to questions about what lurks in the dark. This is Periscope Uncensored.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Periscope Uncensored on the WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Alabama. I'm Joe White. Tonight we're going to flip the script. So joining me is the smelliest man in the UK, QVid.
Thank you very much for that charming introduction.
So how you been, Q?
Not so bad, mate. Looking forward to tonight. This should be quite interesting.
Yes, after our first break, Q, we'll be interviewing our very own Clarissa Vazquez. It's going to be an interesting show. Yes. So what's going on, Q?
Not really a lot. I mean, in the UFO world, nothing really has happened. That's basically it, really, isn't it? I don't think there's a huge amount going on around the world.
Yeah, anything else interesting you want to talk about in the paranormal field?
No, not specifically. I mean, I've been watching a few videos, on Sasquatch sightings, and they're starting to get worse. They really are starting to get worse. They're showing things like bears, and they're saying, "Could this be a Sasquatch?" No, it's a bear.
Yeah, that's. I'm seeing reports of different things too. I'm seeing like where their habitat is slowly disappearing because humans are getting more and more, they're taking over the territory. So it's like, people are getting sightings like in their own backyard or whatever. I mean, it could very well be a bear. I don't know. I have no idea. But, yeah, so just to let, I don't know if I told you, Q, but I have moved out of New England. I am in Colorado right now, and I joined CCPI, and they gave me a really nice, warm welcome, and I highly appreciate that, and, hopefully this is a long-term relationship that will flourish in many years to come of helping people, and they actually made me their operations training supervisor, specialist, so to speak.
That sounds very technical.
Yeah, well, it's basically I'm going to be helping them train on the equipment and train on like the audio software, Gold Wave, that we use. There's different stuff that we, the DVR camera, the SLS camera, all that stuff. Plus, the PowerPoint stuff, and that's just basically for the new people. But because, the people that are already there are already quite versed in it, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. I'm looking forward to the challenge, so.
Should go well.
Yeah. I'm definitely looking forward to it, so see what happens.
Do you going to think you're going to be bringing anything new to the investigations that they haven't done before in some way, possibly?
Well, I can definitely try, but it's, they have their own, it's not like I have my own team. where I can set parameters and say, okay, this is how we do things. I got to do things the way that they do things because they're already set. They've already got their chain of command that I have to go by, so, we've, as a matter of fact, we already have 2 cases coming up this month and maybe more. So, excuse me.
The cases that you've got coming up, are they anything that you're able to talk about now?
I'd rather not.
Okay, fair enough.
Because it's nothing, but we still need to get back in touch with the client and set a date and all that stuff. So right now, I'd rather not say too much. But as far as me bringing ideas, yeah, I can bring up ideas, and of course it has to be voted on by the team, whether if they want to adopt these ideas or not. So it's, it's like I said, it's not something, it's not like my own team where I can sit there and say, okay, this is what we're going to do. Let's do it this way, whatever. So it's going to be, and where I had my own team before, and then joining a team because the previous team that I had did not have a chain of command, so to speak. So this is going to be a totally different experience for me. Because any other team, even prior to my own team, I was on another team, the team that I do not speak.
Uh-huh.
But the thing is that there was no chain of command on that either. So this is definitely going to be a new adventure for me.
Bit of a learning curve for you.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to do my best. I mean, I'm going to try to handle it the best way that I can and be as professional as I can and help the team get to where they need to be. And we'll see how things go.
Should go well, mate.
I mean, the people are real nice, and they're especially especially the founder, who is our very own Clarissa Vazquez. But and they're celebrating their 15th year this year. The second oldest team in Colorado. So, which I believe they've been around for 19 years. So, it's definitely going to be a learning curve, like I said, but, we'll see what happens. I'm definitely looking forward to it.
I wonder if they have any plans for doing like a 20-year celebration. That could be something interesting.
Yeah, I think they have something in the works for their 15th anniversary right now. But it's going from, like I said, going from one team to that you called your own and going on to a different team, it's definitely a learning curve, like you said, Q. And the thing is that it might be a little hard for me, but I'm going to give it my best shot.
I'm sure you will slot in perfectly, mate.
I mean, as far as doing a celebration, even this year for the 15th anniversary, maybe that'll be held in September when they're officially 15 years old. So it's which is only a few months away. So who knows what the future holds, But there's even talk of. I did bring up that there was a team meeting this past Sunday, which as you know, Q, I'm not just. My team was geared towards finding ghost spirits, that sort of thing. But my interest as a paranormal investigator and wants to investigate all the aspects of the paranormal. I'm talking cryptids. I'm talking about, UFOs and aliens, ghosts. I believe that if you're going to investigate the paranormal, you investigate all aspects of the paranormal to become the most diverse investigator that you can possibly be, instead of just sticking to one versus the other. So I brought up a fact because I had this idea about 4 years ago, almost 5, of doing a 2-day expedition going into the woods where there's been Sasquatch sightings and start looking for Sasquatch. So the team voted on it. They all thought it was a good idea, and that passed. It's still going to be CCPI, but it's going to be its own cryptozoology division.
The Yeti division.
So to speak. So to speak. Yeah. Yeah.
If you go though from through all the different types of paranormal, do you not think you could be accused of being a man of all jobs, a master of none?
Not if I bring, if I'm in charge of the cryptozoology division, I won't be, as long as I bring the data that's expected from CCPI. If I stick to the protocol and do things the right way and present the data, if there's any data to present, then no, I don't think that that's how it's going to go down.
Have you thought about... I'm sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, I just think that would solidify CCPI even more.
When it comes to hunting for Sasquatch, what sort of different equipment are you going to need, though? Because surely there's going to be a fair bit of difference in the type of equipment that would be suitable for it. It
could be, but I mean, we could still set up, we'd have to get camera traps. We'd have to get a few more of those, because I believe Clarissa has one. We would probably be able to use the DVR camera, the DVR system, but that being said, the cameras might only go 50 feet. At the least 50 feet. I mean, I believe her cameras go up to 100 feet, but still, that might not be enough to get 200 feet into where the wood line is, or wherever we're going to be staying at. So we have to set up cameras around the perimeter, and so we can see if anything comes through. As far as camcorders go, I mean, we could set up camcorders. That's it's not really a big deal. Camcorders with an IR light, with night vision, that sort of thing. But it's I gotta talk to a few people, which was already brought up to me. So I have a couple of people in mind that I'm going to be talking to find out exactly what I need, and so we can get this thing up and rolling. I mean, hopefully we can get this started for sometime this summer. That's the plan anyway.
Sounds pretty cool, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah. I mean, there might be even a UFO and aliens division in the near future coming down the pike. Who knows?
Only time will tell.
Yeah. But, so how's things in your neck of the woods, okay?
Yeah, fine, mate. Same old Brexit stuff going on in the world. And that's pretty much all we hear about.
Yeah. But, you know, it's the whole thing is all extremely new to me. So, you know, it's life altering, so to speak, you know, so we'll see how things go. But I'm really excited about this. I really am.
I'm sure it will work out perfectly.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So tonight we're going to have a little bit of fun with Clarissa.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Actually, I can't wait on that. Because you interviewed me about, what, 2-3 weeks ago?
Yes, about 3 weeks ago, yeah.
So, and she wasn't feeling well that night, so I had you come on. But it's doing a little flip of the script one more time. And that's the basis of the show tonight, flip the script. So,
I think it was partially Clarissa's idea, though, wasn't it? Because after the show we did together, Clarissa said, "Oh, I'd have liked to have been on that interview because I have different opinions on certain things."
yes.
And I think that was why it came about.
Absolutely. But, yeah. It's going to be interesting. But, you know, it's I mean, when you were on the show previous as a guest, you had brought out some things, and especially where you said that you were a skeptic, where you haven't really had that one encounter to say for sure whether that you saw a spirit or not. So this show tonight, where I'm a believer and you're pretty much a skeptic, yeah, it's going to be a fun show.
Yep.
So, yeah. But,
how are you finding the change in weather where you are now?
You know, the weather here hasn't been too bad. It's been about 70 degrees almost every day. I mean, today was kind of on the cool side. It was a cold front that went through. It did rain a little bit, but that cooled things off. And usually it's been, you know, nice and warm. And there's like the Colorado Rockies are everywhere. I go outside the door and you can see they're all around us. So it's definitely a change of atmosphere, which I'm really enjoying because I like nature to begin with. But, you know.
Change of altitude as well, isn't it?
Yes. Yep. Yeah, Massachusetts is 148 feet above sea level, and where I'm at is 6,000 feet above sea level.
Right, let's go to a break, Jax.
All right, it's time for our first break, everybody, of the evening. But when we come back, Q will be interviewing Clarissa. Stay tuned. You're listening to Periscope Uncensored, and we'll be right back.
Son of a...
Hey, son.
Mother...
Son? What are you doing?
Hey, Mom. I'm getting ready to listen to Periscope Uncensored.
By expanding your vocabulary.
Well, it is uncensored.
Son, the uncensored part of Periscope Uncensored is Jax and I getting down to brass tacks with all aspects of the paranormal. There's no fluff on our show.
So, no off-color commentary?
I didn't say that.
Awesome. What?
Son?
I just hit my head.
Oh boy. I'll go get you an ice pack. Catch Periscope Uncensored Thursday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern, only on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Welcome back to Periscope Uncensored on the WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Alabama. I'm Joe White. Joining me this evening for our Flip of the Script show is the man whose accent makes American women want to swim across the Atlantic, Mr. QVid.
Thank you very much.
And,
certainly nicer than the first introduction.
And joining this evening, as Q and I will be interviewing our very own Clarissa Vazquez. Hello, Clarissa. How are you?
If I was any better, they'd have to put me in a cage.
So, yeah, we did an interview a couple of weeks ago, and we decided that we were going to flip the script again, and this time we were going to interview you, Clarissa. So let's get right to it.
Bring it.
So what made you, how did you get into the paranormal?
How did I get into the paranormal? Well, for our listeners that don't already know, way back when, I'm going to say more than 20 years ago, I'm not going to say exactly how many, but more than 20 years ago, when I was active duty military, I encountered a full-bodied apparition. I was tasked with helping to clean up construction debris from a project where the hospital at my duty station was converting their former morgue into a physical therapy department. And I had come back from lunch and saw a man standing in the construction zone, and he was wearing a uniform from a bygone era. It was definitely a military uniform, but it was more of the olive drab combat fatigues that you would have seen in the 1960s and 1970s, which was not the uniform that we were wearing back then. And I got within about 10 feet of him, and he was very, very corporeal. He was not transparent or wispy, very tangible, rugged, clean-cut, handsome. And again, I got within about 10 feet of him, and I said, "Excuse me, sir, can I help you find something?" And he looked at me and looked away and walked through a cinder block wall and disappeared. And that is what sparked my interest in chasing things that go bump in the night.
And so, walked right through a brick wall.
Cinder block wall, yes.
Wow.
Could that have been a time slip rather than a ghost?
You know, I'm not sure, Q. He almost seemed confused. And
which would sound right if somebody was in a time slip.
Right. And given the fact that the physical aspects of the building were being altered, you know, it was transferring from being a morgue to a physical therapy department, which when it was finished was gorgeous. But, you know, that could have presented some confusion if he was an intelligent ghost or if it was a time slip, as you're indicating maybe a possibility.
Now, do you feel where there's different realms, so to speak, like for instance, I'll just give a couple examples, like residual haunts versus intelligent haunts. Do you feel, which way are you leaning towards with this particular incident that you had?
Based on my 20 plus years of experience investigating ghostly phenomena, I genuinely believe that this was a residual haunt. Even though he looked in my direction, he didn't appear to acknowledge my existence at all. He looked at me, looked away, and walked through a wall and disappeared. You know, if he was genuinely seeing me, you know, the eye contact may have been prolonged. You know, he may have tried to talk to me, you know, like, "Who are you?" or "Where am I?" You know, something to that effect. There was none of that. So I believe it was a residual encounter that I had.
Okay. What do you what do you think of the did you ever see him again?
No, I never saw him again. And I looked every day that I was tasked with that project. I looked, went back at the same time every day. As any good investigator would do, even though I didn't know my butt from my elbow as far as investigating goes at the time, I was trying to duplicate what I had experienced and was not able to do that. I never saw him again, just the one time.
Okay, and how did you get more tuned in the field as far as like after that experience? What did you do then?
Well, the first thing I did after I saw him when I got back to my barracks that night was I called my mom, and I'm like, "You are not going to believe what happened to me today." It didn't occur to me to be frightened. I was more befuddled than anything. And so what I did was I got a library card off base because, there's not going to be books about ghosts and the paranormal, on base. I got a library card off base and started reading every book I could get my hands on. The internet was still in its infancy. Paranormal TV wasn't even a dream yet. And so I started reading, as much as I could, books by Ed Warren and by Hans Holzer, just trying to absorb as much as I could. And then ultimately I discovered that, Polaroid cameras and analog tape recorders were really good ways of trying to communicate with and obtain what I now call data, but, at that time called, evidence or proof. And so I started, running around cemeteries, with a Polaroid camera, which was a really expensive hobby, and an analog tape recorder, that I would let run for hours and hours and hours, let it go for an hour and come back and flip the tape and let it run for another hour. And, as the years went by, I ultimately got better at what I was doing. This field, regardless of how long you've been in this field, you never stop learning. There's always something more to learn. There's new theories to explore or even develop, which I have done. There's new techniques to try out. And sometimes it doesn't hurt to go old school. And so I do that as well on occasion. So, I just kept plugging away. It lit a fire under my backside, and I've been doing it for over 20 years now.
Well, you mentioned then that there was no real paranormal type television about.
Correct. The closest thing to paranormal TV at that time was the occasional segment on the TV show Unsolved Mysteries that would talk about somebody's ghostly or extraterrestrial experience.
Was that the one with Spock?
No, that was the one with Robert Stack.
Right. And what do you think about the modern day television programs? For instance, I hate to call this a decent program, but I'll go for it. What do you think of the likes of Most Haunted, the British show?
Oh, Most Haunted! To answer the first part of your question, what do I think about the paranormal TV shows? I think they're all crap. The good ones are canceled after the first season because nobody wants to see people come up with nothing, which in this field, 99% of the time is what we get is nothing. And viewers don't want to see that. So the good shows get canceled after the first season because the viewers want something exciting. The viewers want to see, evidence. And so the shows that are on the air now are, in my opinion, bunk. But with regard to Most Haunted, if I want a good laugh, I watch that. And we even have a term on my team when someone is in view of the infrared cameras, the night vision cameras, and their eyes start glowing. we say, oh, that person has Yvette Fielding eyes, because it never fails. They always point the cameras at Yvette Fielding, to where her eyes just glow bright white. She almost looks possessed. And it's like, oh, somebody's got Yvette Fielding eyes. So it's good for a laugh.
Would you take up an offer if you were ever actually offered to do a television series yourself? Would you ever consider taking that up?
I have actually been considered for a show a couple of times. And what kills it every single time is when I tell the producers that I will not fabricate data for the sake of ratings. That kills it every time.
I was about to ask you, how would you feel about falling into the same trap that all the other shows seem to fall into?
No, I would rather not be on television than to sell out and, forsake the reputation that I have spent the better part of 20 years, working and building. And, I literally have blood, sweat, and tears into my research, and I take it very seriously, as Joe can attest to. And I will not fabricate for anyone or any reason.
One fabrication would absolutely destroy everything.
Yeah, we have a really good photograph that we obtained at an investigation a few weeks ago, and there's a lot of speculation as to who could be in that photograph, but because we have some doubt about the photograph, we believe, that it could be one of our investigators, but on the other hand, we believe that it may not be one of our investigators in that photograph. And there's several reasons for why it may or may not be one or the other, to include the fact that it was taken with an infrared camera, which has a very slow shutter speed. There are other objects in the room that could be melding with the person in the photo. There are a lot of variables with the photo, and we follow the premise, when in doubt, toss it out. So, we will not be presenting that photo to the public because we have doubts as to whether or not it is in fact paranormal in nature. So we won't be releasing it.
That is actually the number one golden rule, isn't it? When in doubt, throw it out.
One of them. Yeah. There's so many number one golden rules in this field, but when in doubt, toss it out is definitely up there as far as priorities go. And when you're presenting data to the public, you want it to be the highest quality, the best, highest caliber. And so if it doesn't meet our strict standards, our strict guidelines, we won't present it to the public.
Can a picture ever be proof?
Well, first of all, I don't like using the term proof, and I don't like using the term evidence. Those are things that evidence is something that you prove in court. I like using the term data. And when you've got one piece of data that can be validated by another piece of data, then you're working toward having something that could indicate that what you're dealing with is paranormal in nature. If you've got a photograph that was taken at the same time that an EVP was recorded, or you've got a piece of video footage that also has an EVP on it that was taken in conjunction with an investigator or someone else having a personal experience, whether they witnessed it themselves or they were touched or an object moved or something to that effect. You've got to have more than one piece of data to validate in order to be, considered for legitimacy.
So a photograph on its own can't be considered good data, but along with other things at the same time, it can.
In my opinion, yes, that's correct.
So like if you take a picture and have a hit on the millimeter or an EVP at the same time that photograph was taken, that could be paranormal activity.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, Q.
I was just going to say, what do you feel about orbs?
Orbs, I have an acronym. The word orbs, ORBS, stands for ordinary random bits of stuff. I believe that 99.99999% of what people out there are considering to be paranormal orbs are just that, ordinary random bits of stuff, whether it's dust, bugs, swamp gas, water vapor, in extremely rare cases, ball lightning. It's very difficult to say that an orb is paranormal in nature when orbs can be so easily debunked. People say, well, I saw a face in the orb. And it's, well, are you familiar with the term pareidolia? But the orb was blue or green or yellow. It's like, okay, were you using a flash? And what color was, the nearest object to the flash? Because light beams will travel indefinitely until they are impeded by a solid object from which they will reflect. So if you are using the flash and someone nearby is wearing blue jeans and you wind up with a blue orb, chances are what has happened is the light from the flash traveled to the blue denim jeans that person was wearing, bounced off of those jeans, and they're then reflected onto the piece of dust that is now appearing to be blue or yellow or green or red or pink or puce.
Okay, so you know colours.
Right. Yes, I do.
So when you say why? Okay, as far as pareidolia goes, why would people seeing faces in orbs?
People seeing faces in orbs, one single piece of dust has more crevices and ridges and valleys than the Grand Canyon and the moon combined.
Really?
Yes. And so pareidolia, in its most basic definition, is your brain thinking that something is there that really isn't. Best comparison is when you look up at the clouds and you think you see a bunny rabbit in the clouds. Of course, there is no rabbit, but your brain is making a familiar connection into the shape that those clouds are. It makes, it's like, oh, the clouds are in that shape. It looks like a bunny rabbit. So when you're looking at an orb and you think you see a face in it, it's your brain making that connection out of those, ridges and crevices and canyons and valleys, within the orb that are in a specific pattern that your brain associates with a face.
The face on Mars is the perfect example.
Yes. Yes. And if anybody wants to learn more about pareidolia, including the face on Mars, they can check out my book, Debunking Common Paranormal Myths, Exploring Psychosomatic Pareidolia, which is available on Amazon. Shameless plug.
Oh, don't worry. Nobody noticed.
Yeah. So when you were old school with the analog tape recorder and the Polaroid camera, were you able to catch anything with those?
I've got one photograph that I captured back in 2004 with the Polaroid camera, and it was taken at the same time that I actually captured my first EVP. Got an EVP of sounds like a really sinister laugh. It's like a ha 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 that I captured with the analog tape recorder that was taken, at the same time as the photograph in question. And I don't show the photograph very often because the situation surrounding that photograph, I took it of a friend of mine. And he was getting ready to go outside to have a cigarette. and he had the cigarette in his hand, and he was asking me if he could borrow my lighter, and I told him not until he posed for a photo. And so he posed for the photo. You can see the cigarette in his hand, but next to him is a misty human-shaped form. And so that photo gets a lot of snarky comments because he is holding a cigarette in his hand, and it's a misty form standing right next to him.
Okay. On that note, it is time for our next break. But when we come back, more of our Flip the Script show with QVid and Clarissa. So stay tuned. You're listening to Periscope Uncensored on the WBHM, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to Periscope Uncensored on the WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Alabama. I'm Joe White, and the co-pilot seat for our Flip the Script show is none other than the man who thinks TMI stands for Touch My Igloo, Mr. QVid.
I have nothing to say. Thank you. Wow.
And joining this evening is our very own Clarissa Vazquez. Hello, Clarissa. How are you?
I am swell. Q, do a lot of people ask to touch your igloo?
So, anyway. What are ghosts?
What are ghosts?
Yeah.
I believe that ghosts are there. There are two different definitions of ghosts. One is the spirit of a person who has whose physical body has passed away, and their soul or their spirit energy remains on this plane for whatever reason, whether it's a fear of heaven or hell, or their inability to move on or be reincarnated. I don't know. The other definition is an energy imprint of a person who has passed, very similar to a fingerprint. You know, the finger is gone, but the imprint remains, and that definition right there is what I believe is the basis for residual hauntings.
Right. So you mentioned reincarnation then.
Yes.
Do you believe in past life regression?
Absolutely.
Are there any particular cases that you would say that's genuine?
I've studied past life regression pretty extensively. I'm also a big fan of Dr. Brian Weiss, who he's a psychiatrist out of Florida, and he has done some incredible work with past life regression through hypnosis, so much so that some of his patients have actually been able to overcome their psychiatric diagnoses, and in the really successful cases even stop taking their psychotropic medications.
But the likes of hypnosis, that isn't something that you can use in a court of law. Because
no,
they
that's
didn't
correct.
say it's fully valid, so
that's correct.
Can we class it as being valid?
Hypnosis is about as useful in court as a polygraph.
But wasn't there a couple cases where it was brought into court and proven, like a murder case?
If there's cause for it, it can be used. But I'm not an attorney, so I can't say, when it is and is not acceptable for hypnosis or even polygraph to be admissible in court. But there have been cases where hypnosis has been utilized, and some cases, some unsolved cases have been solved because people who underwent hypnosis were able to recall things that helped investigators solve those cases.
Okay, so what's the most compelling evidence that you have caught since you started CCPI, Colorado Coalition of paranormal investigators?
The most compelling data? We've got some really good EVPs on our website. And for anybody that wants to check out the website, you can visit ccpi-paranormal.com. I recommend you do that after the show. You can go and listen to some of our really good EVPs. We worked a case a few years ago where a family was being plagued by mysterious things, and with the aid of our in-house researcher, we were able to determine that a child had been murdered near the house that we were investigating. And one of the EVPs that we captured, and believe it or not, we captured it with a GoPro camera, not with an audio recorder. It was captured with a GoPro camera. And it is a child's voice calling for their mother and saying, "I don't want to die."
Wow.
And I think I sent that one to you shortly after we caught it.
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
I remember that very well.
Yeah.
It took me like 20 minutes to pick up my mouth off the floor.
Yeah.
So what do you see? Now CCPI is celebrating their 15th anniversary this year.
Yes.
Where do you foresee the team going to in the future?
Well, as you mentioned in the first segment, we're getting ready to expand and we're getting ready to branch out. Our crypto division is expected to launch this summer. We also may develop a ufology division, and there is even talk of developing an extrasensory division. One of our investigators is very interested in that. So we may even have an ESP division launched before too long. And those will all be, independent divisions. They'll all be part of CCPI, but just as like if you have a bank, a bank has different divisions. They've got the tellers, and then they've got their loan department, and they've got their mortgage department, and then they've got their business department. But it's all the same organization, just different departments. And that's really what we're looking at right now is having, is branching out a little bit into some of the other aspects of paranormal investigation, because paranormal is not limited to ghosts. Paranormal encompasses cryptozoology, ufology, extrasensory abilities, as well as ghostology. So we're looking to expand, but at the same time, we're going to continue our focus and continue our mission to help people who believe they are being plagued by unknown activities.
And do you think that expansion on these different divisions, you think that'll hurt the team going forward, or do you think it'll help?
I think it'll only help. I think it'll help the team. I think it'll help the organization as a whole, because we'll be able to provide more services to our clients, and we'll still have our primary focus, but the ghost chasers aren't going to be required to go and chase Bigfoot. They won't be required to go out and look for ETs, unless they want to. If that's something that floats their boat, they're more than welcome to be part of more than one division.
So everything, it will be completely separate, and each will have, I know that there's a chain of command, but each division will have its own chain of command? Yeah,
each division will have its own independent chain of command, which will then ultimately report to me. Oh, I see the mountain of paperwork on my desk growing exponentially here soon. And we just cleaned off my desk.
Yeah. So, what was that, Q?
I didn't actually say anything.
Oh,
I was just thinking, keeping it separate is the best way to go about it, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And I just hope it all works out well.
I think it will. It's not going to hurt us to try.
It'll attract more people into the group because some people are more interested in one topic than another.
Right.
Not everybody believes in ghosts.
Right.
So it does open that up. So
yeah, absolutely.
And a lot of these people, I think, are more open to taking on other subjects and getting into other realms of the paranormal. They might be a UFO nut to start with, kind of thing, and end up going over to Sasquatch,
right,
to ghosts, whatever.
Yeah, I agree. We've spent the last 15 years chasing ghosts, and we have enough people and enough interest, and I think that it's probably time to grow.
Enjoy your paperwork.
I'm getting really good at delegating, believe it or not. I've actually I've got a good management team under me right now. We've got a personnel manager, we've got a technical manager, we've got a case manager, and now we have an operations training specialist, Mr. Joe White. And I'm getting really good at delegating. So maybe the mountain of paperwork, it will initially be pretty huge, but I think I'll be able to delegate some of that out, and it may not be too bad in the long run.
The investigations that you've done in the past, when you've gone to like one of these buildings that people say is haunted and things have been seen and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Have you done a lot of private houses where people are seeing things and stuff like that?
Oh, yes. We get called to do more residential cases than we do commercial locations. But some of the residential cases lead to a commercial investigation. The clients of the residential investigation say, okay, wow, you guys did such a great job at my house. Can you come check out where I work? And we're more than happy to do that. But then it leads us to go to question, in the event that we've acquired data that indicates potential paranormal phenomena, then we have to ask, is it related to the structure, or is it related to the common denominator between the two locations, which is the client? Mm. So, that requires more digging and really some one-on-one with the client themselves. Asking some tough questions and trying to get to the bottom of, what's really going on here. Is it two different locations that just happen to both have potentially paranormal phenomena going on, or is it the client themselves that is haunted?
Yeah, that's fair enough.
And would you prefer to investigate residential or commercial?
Personally, I love doing both, but I actually prefer the commercial locations over the residentials. It's when a client calls us in, they are terrified to the point where they're willing to allow a group of strangers into their personal space. And it's kind of unnerving having a group of strangers, come into your home or your business, most often at night. But it's also a little unnerving for us to go into somebody's home, because they're strangers to us also. And so I personally, as far as my own comfort zone goes, I prefer doing commercial locations as opposed to residential, but I will not turn an investigation down unless there are safety or other circumstances that indicate that it's probably not a good idea to investigate there.
And right before the break, you don't charge anybody anything when you go to help them, do you?
Correct.
So there's no booking charge? There's no, we get paid $5 an hour?
No.
There's no charges. You go there
absolutely.
purely to help the people.
Right. We will not accept a single penny from our clients. In fact, there have been a couple of times where we've had to give them money because we accidentally broke something. But no, we will never, ever charge a fee for what we do.
I like that.
It's the way it's supposed to be.
Yes.
But it is time for our top of the hour break. But when we come back, more with Q and Clarissa. You're listening to Periscope Uncensored on the WBHM Digital Broadcasting, and we'll be right back after this message from NPR. Welcome back to Periscope Uncensored on the WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Alabama. I'm Joe White, and joining me at the helm is Obi-Wan Kenobi's illegitimate twin brother, QVid.
Thank you very much. I feel I'll take that one.
Well, we're continuing with our Flip the Script show, talking to literally,
Literally.
Thank you.
We're literally talking to me.
Yeah, goddess herself.
The literary goddess, is that
Yes.
what you're trying to say?
Yes, thank you. Clarissa Vazquez.
Well, thank you for that introduction.
Maybe we should call her something different. Maybe we should call her a witch or a high priestess.
I am. Both of those, actually.
Elaborate.
I am a practicing Wiccan who
Right. I
has-
remember I know nothing about this. No, I mean this subject. This is where I get lost. So what is a Wiccan?
A Wiccan is a type of pagan. I am considered to be a witch with a W. And we're a polytheistic faith that we put a lot of emphasis on respecting, if not worshiping, nature as well as our deities. We believe that all things are interconnected. You know, we are all one energy. We're all one unit. And so it's pretty fun. I like it.
All one energy with things on Earth.
And within the universe.
So if there are, which I do believe, there are aliens out there, we're connected with them in some way as well through
Absolutely.
energy.
Mm-hmm.
So when they finally discover that aliens exist, could aliens have ghosts?
You know, I think that's possible, Q.
Because I know a lot of people say that they've seen ghosts of animals as well, like dogs and cats. And
Yes.
That's okay.
Yeah, animal spirits are not uncommon. And so I think that I think it is possible for extraterrestrial beings to have ghosts as well. And if they don't, maybe they know why they don't.
Yeah, see, we have a good friend, Joe and I, named Mark. He's an Australian gentleman. And him and his wife have said many times that they've seen what they say it looks like a Labrador through a glass door. And the glass door is, from the way he describes it, it's, you know, like dimpled glass. So when you look through it, it's not crystal clear.
Right.
It's slightly distorted. But there are a number of times I've seen a dog sitting on the other side of the door, and that's the two of them at the same time.
Huh, interesting. Yeah, that right there, that's validation to have more than one witness to that phenomena. My recommendation would be for them to keep a camera of some sort handy, and the next time they see it, try to photograph it.
Photograph or film? Wouldn't film be better?
Film would be better, but sometimes they're only there for a split second. So if you can catch it, you know, if you can catch a snapshot, you know, great. If they're able to get video footage of it, maybe appearing or disappearing, even better.
Now, if they were able to photograph it, does he just take one photograph?
No, they would need to take several photographs in succession.
From the same location?
From the same location, the same position. Mm-hmm.
See, that's why I think film would be better, because 1 second of film is going to contain, depending on what camera speed they're using, but it could contain 30 to 60 pictures in 1 second. Now, if
absolutely
you're saying take 3 photographs, they've got to go like, that was over a 2 second period.
How does that go again?
1 second period. Oh dear. But you get what I mean. 1 second of video is a lot more pictures than they would probably take in 1 second.
Right.
I mean, I'd like them to be able to film this and one of them go and open the door. Now, I don't know, is that the right thing to do, to approach something like that?
There's no harm in trying to approach something like that. My speculation would be that if they tried to approach it, it would disappear. Unless it's malevolent, in which case it would, it could possibly become aggressive. So, proceed with caution, but if they can get up to the glass and it doesn't disappear, they can try, interacting slowly through, with the glass in between them. I certainly wouldn't try to open the door and, allow it into the house. That could cause some problems. But,
well, from what they say, this is actually an internal door going to another room inside the house.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah. It sounds like they have a room split by a sliding door.
Interesting. Yeah, I would try to interact, with the glass as a partition, and try to catch that on film.
Now, you said you were a witch.
Yes, I am, with a W.
And I know you've told me you have a broom.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is called a basum.
And the other night when I was speaking to you, I realised that you have an interest in crystal balls.
Yeah, I actually bought one on Top Hatter yesterday. Got a blue, it's a blue tiger's eye, believe it or not, which, most tiger's eye is gold and brown, but this is a blue tiger's eye crystal ball. It's only about 1.5 inches, if I read the dimensions correctly. I won't know for sure until it arrives, but it's pretty cool.
Is there any validity to crystal balls? When you see people using them to...
Some people like to use crystals for divination or scrying. I prefer to use crystals for their different energy properties, whether it's healing or relaxation or balancing the chakras. That's what I prefer to use crystals for. This blue tiger's eye one I bought just because it looks really cool. I think Joe showed you a picture of it.
He did. It did look cool. I just thought at first it was going to be larger than it actually was.
Well, yeah, we were looking at it. We're like, wow, 40 millimeters. And then we looked it up and converted millimeters to inches. It's only like 1.5 inches. But it only cost, I think, $4 with free shipping. So totally worth it.
Yeah, that was a definitely interesting piece. I liked it. I thought it was bigger than that, but...
Yeah, but it's all ours as soon as it gets here.
Have you ever had to go with the crystal ball?
I don't own a clear quartz crystal ball myself. I've got a really good friend who is also a witch, who has one, and she's tried scrying with it without much luck. Different people have different abilities. It's the same with extrasensory perception and other psychic abilities, and different witches have different abilities with the elements. Whereas one may be very gifted in divination and scrying. Say with a crystal ball, for example. Whereas I'm pretty talented at bending fire. So, and I know Joe is waiting for me to demonstrate that. And now that I've mentioned it tonight, I may have to do it. But it's different people have different abilities, and so my gift is with the elements, whereas others may be gifted in divination and such.
And that's what Wiccans do. They worship the 4 different elements.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes. The elements are almost deities in and of themselves, and they actually have deities that represent them. So earth, air, water, and fire, and spirit. So it's actually 5 elements.
I'll have to show you my tattoo later.
I'll have to show you my tattoo. I'll show you mine if you show me yours.
So anyway.
So when Mark and his wife take a picture of this ghost dog that they think that they're seeing, what type of camera do you recommend? Do you recommend something that they can adjust the speed on, or
no?
How does that work?
No, really. Unless you're an experienced photographer or an experienced investigator, you don't need to invest a lot of money into the specialized equipment. Just whatever they have laying around the house. They could even try to film it with their cell phones for starters, and then if they obtain something that could be credible, then they can contact a research organization to come in with the specialized equipment and try to capture footage of it again that can be used as validation or corroboration.
Can I just say as well, for anybody that's taken a picture of something, whether it be a ghost, a UFO, anything, if you're using a mobile phone, please turn your phone on the side to take the photograph.
Mm-hmm.
The reason being, the photograph uses more pixels, so it's better to zoom in to the picture.
Mm-hmm.
It's a higher quality picture.
Yeah, definitely turn your phone horizontally.
Well, mobile phones, loads of people have got them.
Mm-hmm.
And you've just mentioned equipment.
Mm-hmm.
So what equipment is good? And
what equipment is good?
Is bad as well?
Okay. We'll start with the bad. I genuinely believe that the apps that are out there for chasing ghosts, I don't know about UFO apps, if there are any. I don't know. That's not my area of specialty. But as far as chasing ghosts, the ghost apps out there like Ghost Radar and EchoVox and stuff, don't waste your time. Don't waste your money. Don't waste the space on your phone. Cell phones and tablets were not designed to do what the apps claim they can do. And if those apps were legit and genuinely worked, they would not be free downloads or 99-cent downloads. They would cost hundreds or thousands of dollars. So don't even waste your time. Most of them are random word generators that have a word bank, and some of them even have GPS locators in them. So let's say you're at the Lizzie Borden Bed and Breakfast. That GPS feature is going to be active, and your machine is going to say things like Lizzie, Axe, Murder, Andrew, stuff like that. And so, again, they're bunk. Don't waste your time. Don't waste your money. Don't waste the space on your machine.
Okay, on that note, it is time for our next break, but when we come back, more with more with Q and Clarissa, so stay tuned. You're listening to Periscope Uncensored on the WBHM Digital Broadcasting, and we'll be right back.
Son of a...
Hey, son.
Mother...
Son, what are you doing?
Hey, Mom. I'm getting ready to listen to Periscope Uncensored.
By expanding your vocabulary.
Well, it is uncensored.
Son, the uncensored part of Periscope Uncensored is Jax and I getting down to brass tacks with all aspects of the paranormal. There's no fluff on our show.
So, no off-color commentary?
I didn't say that.
Awesome!
Son?
I just hit my head.
Oh boy. I'll go get you an ice pack. Catch Periscope Uncensored Thursday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern, only on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Welcome back to Periscope Uncensored on the WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Alabama. I'm Joe White. Joining me this evening is the man who wishes he was the future Mrs. Joe White, QVid.
Thank you.
And we're talking to the actual future Mrs. Joe White, Clarissa Vazquez. Hello, Clarissa.
That would be me.
So, Clarissa, let me ask you a question. The SLS camera.
Yes.
Jax, do you mind if I interrupt one moment?
Sure, go right ahead.
The only reason is just going back to what Clarissa said before about phone apps, and she wasn't sure whether there were any good ones out there. For anybody interested in the UFO field, there's actually two free phone apps that you can get. One's called Satellite Tracker, and one's called Plane Tracker. You literally, once you've downloaded it, and it's free if you get it legitimately, you download it. If you see something unusual in the sky, maybe moving across the sky, you can load up either of these apps and you can find out instantly whether it's a satellite going overhead by pointing your phone at it, and it will take your GPS and the direction you're facing and all of that, and it will tell you what satellite it is, if it's a satellite.
Oh, that's
And
cool.
It's the same for planes as well. There probably are some planes that wouldn't show up on it, but they're going to be more specialist, or maybe on maneuvers or something. But
Okay.
yeah, they're two really good apps. So, Jax, sorry, you were saying
Okay.
about the SLS.
Yes. The SLS camera, Clarissa, what do you think of that? What?
I'm still working to debunk the SLS camera itself. I think a lot of it has to do with operator error. There's a very high probability for false positives. You can move the camera a fraction of an inch in either direction and the anomaly detected disappears, which if it was a legitimate anomaly, the camera should be able to track it and, maintain with it. However, there have been a couple of instances, case in point, when you and I were at the S.K. Pierce Mansion in Gardner, Massachusetts,
Yes.
last August. I did detect an anomaly crawling on the ceiling in the basement area, and I was able to track it with the SLS camera as it crawled across the ceiling. And so that, in my opinion, was a legitimate anomaly detection. Other times, again, you move the camera a fraction of an inch and it disappears. But there have been, other instances, where I've used the camera and I've asked the anomaly, can you wave for me? And the anomaly did a gesture. It looked like they took their hat off and then put their hat back on, like they were saying, like, howdy, that kind of thing. So, again, I think there's a lot of operator error involved with it, very high probability for false positives, and I'm still working to debunk it. But I think as time goes on and a lot of those bugs are worked out, I think the SLS can potentially become a very valuable tool in the field.
And what are you doing to try to debunk it? Like, what are you looking into? What aspects are you looking into to actually debunk it?
Mostly moving the camera and finding out, how fast or how slow you have to move that camera in order for it to detect or lose the anomaly detection.
My opinion on that is the only way to prove whether these SLS cameras are actually showing us anything, because I'm a little bit concerned about the software side of the cameras that's used. And I think the only way you could really prove that these things are picking up something legitimate would be to be filming something on camera, and for somebody on a completely different angle to you, say a 90-degree angle to you, be filming the exact same thing, but from a completely different angle. Now, if you were able to do that, that would be impressive.
Yes, I agree 100%, Q.
That would be a three-dimensional something.
Yeah, and it would be validation because you're picking up your anomaly, you're picking up your data with more than one device.
Yeah. But
and
if
you can get an EVP in conjunction with it, even better.
Yeah. I am a little bit concerned about the software that's used in it. But time will tell. Somebody, I'm sure, will do it.
Yeah, like I said, they need to work out the bugs and and keep going with it. And so I think in the future it can become a very valuable tool in the field. But we'll see. We'll wait and see.
I mean, as far as working out the bugs, I mean, that piece of equipment has been out, what, a year and a half, 2 years at the most?
2 or 3 years, yeah.
So, and there's still a lot of teams that don't have the SLS camera, so there's a lot of there is a lot of bugs to work out, wouldn't you say?
Yes.
Yeah, we need validation from that piece of kit. But there are some really good bits of footage that I have already seen with that. It's just, can you trust the software? Because at the end of the day, it's software that's showing us that image.
Yeah, that's very true. But it's also software that shows us video footage, and it's software that gives us, our audio data. So
yeah, I agree.
And like I said, there are bugs in the software that need to be worked out, but and in time, I think those bugs will be worked out.
But at the same time, whether, there's two different types of cameras, correct?
Yes, there's the XCam and then there's the Kinect.
And so both of them have, where did these devices originally from?
Well, the Kinect was gaming software for the Xbox.
Yes.
And the XCam took that same concept and was designed specifically for paranormal investigation. Now, once the XCam came out, people are like, oh, well, I can take this Kinect and hack it and do the same thing at a lower cost than what the XCam is selling for. The XCam sells for over $1,000. The Kinect sells for under $500.
So if it's gaming software, how can it actually be trusted?
Exactly. And, Q made a very valid point. If you can take, if you can capture an anomaly on, from one angle and then capture the same anomaly from a different angle, then you've got validation and you can trust what you're seeing.
Because if back at SKPS Mansion back in August, I was on the stairwell going from the second to the third floor, and I ended up catching what appeared to be two children.
Right.
And if I remember correctly, you came up with your SLS camera to try to catch the same thing and validate what I was seeing at an angle.
at almost a 90-degree angle from where you were at.
And you didn't catch anything.
Correct.
And that has to make you wonder, was there anything actually there, or is it a software thing?
Well, on that note, Q, Joe was actually able to go back to that location and capture those two anomalies a second time. So it could have been that maybe I just wasn't at the right angle, or I was too far away for my camera to detect the anomalies, but Joe was able to duplicate those results.
Yeah, but again, it's using one camera. It's using one
Right.
SLS. You need two being used at the same time, different angles, and seeing the same thing from different angles. That is more like proof. Because I'm still stuck on the whole fact that the software, it could be picking up points on, say, a banister.
Mm-hmm.
That it's thinking is the tip of a hand and an elbow and a leg, and but if we could get two done at the same time, that would be awesome. What other good bits of kit are there out there?
Bits of kit?
Yeah, items, stuff to help you find what you're looking for.
Well, you can't go
Equipment.
wrong. You can't go wrong with an audio recorder, or even a video camera or a still camera that has the capability to record video. But for anybody starting out in the field, my primary recommendation is the first thing you need to get is a mentor.
Right.
The very first and foremost thing you need to get is a mentor. You need to find somebody who knows what they're doing, and can guide you and hopefully show you ethical practices and kind of teach you how to use the equipment and how to use it properly, and teach you how to debunk and things like that.
And I presume this mentor would maybe steer you away from using the likes of Ouija boards?
Hopefully, a lot of people believe that Ouija boards are 100% conclusively evil, and they use the argument, you never know who you're communicating with. And my rebuttal to that is anything is dangerous if you don't know how to properly operate it. A car is dangerous if you don't know how to properly operate it. And so to rebut the comment that you never know what you're allowing in, you never know who you're communicating with, my question back to them is then, how is that any different than conducting an EVP session? How do you know who you're talking to? How do you know if they're telling you the truth? How do you know? And so, usually people shut up real quick after I give them that little spiel. But no, I do not advocate the use of Ouija boards or seances during the course of a paranormal investigation.
So would you talk?
You don't?
No, I don't, because I don't believe in utilizing the paranormal to obtain data of, leading to paranormal evidence. You can't prove the paranormal with the paranormal. And so using seances and psychics and Ouija boards and stuff like that is paranormal. It cannot be scientifically proven.
That makes sense.
So what do you tell people when, speaking of Ouija boards, that claim that the infamous D word, here we go, Zozo is associated with the Ouija board?
I asked them for, what makes you say that? What's your supporting data?
Well, if they have data that proves this point, wouldn't that be justified in saying that there's something evil associated with the board?
Is it associated with the board, or is it random happenstance that, that whatever, D word they claim to be interacting with, went, oh, wow, they're using a Ouija board. This gives me an opportunity to further infiltrate.
Makes sense.
Do you think people should ever attempt to summon something?
To summon, like the dreaded D word, or to summon a spirit, or
Either.
Well, you should never, ever, ever attempt to summon a demon, ever. That's the equivalent of sticking your wet finger in a light socket and thinking nothing bad is going to happen. And if you have someone who is skilled and gifted in communicating with spirits, that has the ability to properly summon a spirit, then I don't see any problem with that.
And before you go on investigations and when you finish them, it seems to me that everybody has their own process of making sure that they stay clean and away from anything attaching themselves. Do you have any little things that you do before going on an investigation to keep anything nasty, if you like, away from you?
Because my organization is so diverse, we have Catholics, we have Christians, we have Wiccans, we have Mormons on our team. What we do is we do a moment of silence for the people that want to pray. They can pray. For the people that want to meditate, they can meditate. For the people that want to smudge themselves, they can smudge themselves before and after.
And is that something that has to be done, do you think?
I leave it completely optional, kind of proceed at your own risk.
That'll be more lines of like if whatever makes them feel comfortable or whatever.
Right.
That's.
We're not going to force any one activity or practice upon the rest of the team.
Yeah, but I know Jax has a little routine that he likes to do. And some of you like to carry things, don't you?
Yeah, some of our investigators, they like to carry crystals. Some like to wear crosses. Some people like to carry holy water with them. It's up to the individual investigator, what they want to carry on themselves.
Okay, it is time for our final break of the evening, but when we come back, we'll do our shameless plugging segment and have our closing comments with QVid and Clarissa, so stay tuned. You're listening to Periscope Uncensored on the WBHM Digital Broadcasting, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to Periscope Uncensored on the WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Alabama. I'm Joe White, and joining me is the man frequently mistaken for a Yeti, QVid.
Thank you. I've actually had to shave, so I'm looking a little bit better.
Well, we flipped the script tonight with our very own Clarissa Vazquez and want to give her an opportunity to do some shameless plugging. So, Clarissa, why don't you tell people where they can find you, where they can find the team, where they can find your books?
Well, I am everywhere. I'm like a fungus. I'm everywhere. No, I'm kidding. You can find out more about myself and CCPI, the Colorado Coalition of Paranormal Investigators, by going to our website, www.ccpi-paranormal.com. You can find all 6 of my books on Amazon. Just make sure you put in the search engine, put my name in the search engine. So Clarissa with 1 R and 2 S's, and Vazquez, Vazquez. Got to spell it right or it won't come up. And you can find all 6 of my books. Ghosts of the Heart, A Paranormal Investigator's Journey, Ghost Hunting in Colorado, Theories for Worldwide Investigators, No Monsters Here, Demons of the Coven, Phantom Trains and Haunted Rails of the U.S., and my most recent release, co-authored with Chris Carr, Debunking Common Paranormal Myths, Exploring Psychosomatic Pareidolia. All are available on Amazon.
Outstanding. Now, you do have another book in progress, correct?
I have several books in progress.
One in particular that I am aware of is called Ghosts in the Bible.
Yeah, Ghosts in the Bible is a book that I've been working on for the last 11 years now. 8 years. I've been working on it since 2011. I've been working on it for 8 years now. I'm having some difficulty with it, and so all or part of it may end up in a book that Chris and I are currently working on that we're hoping to have out in the fall. Haven't quite decided yet. Chris and I keep bouncing back and forth between, are we going to include it? Are we not? I don't know yet. Because I've spent 8 years working on Ghosts in the Bible, this book is, it's becoming a thorn in my side. I'm ready to put it to bed, but I'm having trouble finding clergy that will talk to me regarding it. Most specifically, a Catholic priest and a rabbi. I can't get either one to talk to me. So, I've gone knocking on doors, I've sent emails, I've made phone calls, and can't get anyone to talk to me. So it's been a little difficult. I want to put the project to bed, but I'm having trouble with it. So we'll see what happens with it in the end.
Why do you think that you're having trouble with getting people to talk to you about this book?
I think because as far as mainstream religion goes, ghosts are still really taboo. Some religions believe that, communicating with the dead is a sin, or that you're not communicating with the dead, you're communicating with the devil himself. And so they don't advocate that interaction and that communication. And the focus of this book, Ghosts in the Bible, pinpoints specific scripture that shows the pros and the cons. It shows in the Bible where, it may not be such a good thing to interact with the dead, but it also highlights, where, people have interacted with the dead and, were not rebuked for it. And, they were not punished for it. There are others who argue further and say that, ghosts do not exist, and the Bible flat out says they exist. And there's a scripture in the Bible. I can't tell you what it is off the top of my head right now because I am still a little sleep deprived from the big trip. But shortly after the resurrection, Christ says, do not be afraid. I am not a ghost. It is me.
So in that case, why are the Catholic Church looking to take on more people right at the moment?
You mean the recent sanction of 500,000 new exorcists?
Yeah. Why?
Yeah.
If ghosts aren't real, why the hell are they going to spend that much money doing that? Why don't they just put their hand in the pocket and rebuild the place that burnt down in France a few weeks back? Why would they raise their money that way?
The short answer to that is there is a distinct difference between a ghost and a demon. And, ghosts are the spirits of people who have passed, whereas demons are entities that have never occupied a human body, or it has been so long since they did occupy a human body, they've lost their humanity. We don't quite know which. And so, demons and ghosts are two completely separate entities. And the Catholic Church is very concerned over the rise in demonic activity, to which I can validate and attest. In the 20-something years, I'm not going to give a specific number, that I've been doing this, up until 2017, I had only encountered 2 cases that I believed could possibly or potentially be demonic in nature. In 2017 alone, we had 2 more in that 1 year. And it was shortly thereafter that the Catholic Church announced that they were sanctioning the 500,000 new exorcists.
Now, CCPI actually works with the archdiocese out here, correct?
Yes, we've been called in by the church on a couple of occasions because they don't want to allocate the time and resources and manpower to investigate some of the claims from their parishioners. And so they call us in an observe and report capacity, and we observe, we report back to them, and then they decide if church intervention is warranted based on our recommendation.
Okay.
There was a good comment in chat before, by the way, when we were talking about the SLS cameras. Vern said, this is when we were talking about having two cameras on like a 90-degree angle to each other, two SLS cameras. And he said, what if ghosts are like paper, cardboard cutouts, so that one angle, you might not see them? So that's maybe like a dimensional thing. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe they're not 3-dimensional. Maybe they're only 2-dimensional.
So maybe the 90-degree angle wouldn't be perfect, but if you were to do
maybe
it
a 45-degree angle.
Yeah.
I never even thought of that.
I never thought of that either. That's a really good thought, Vern.
Mm.
Wow. Good job, Vern.
But it's something that to prove the likes of the SLS, it's something that needs to be done by somebody at some point. Because if two cameras
I'm getting a psychic premonition. I'm having a psychic premonition right now where I think Joe and our technical manager Eric are going to be exploring that.
The thing is as well, right? If it is flat like a piece of paper, and I'm standing in front of it and I'm filming it right now, somebody at the 90-degree angle might not be picking that up.
Mm-hmm.
But would somebody who was behind it, on the opposite side of it to me, looking towards me, would they pick it up? Would you see it from the front and the back, even though it's flat?
Well, the problem with that would be the infrared lighting. If you're pointing two infrared cameras at each other, they're going to blind each other out. So the better option would be to try, from like a 45-degree angle.
That would make sense, because if you're going at a 90-degree angle and you're not seeing anything, cut it in half. And then you'd be able to see something, might be able to see something.
It would still be good data, though.
Yeah,
if you got
definitely.
it on both cameras. So, what equipment is a definite no-no? A no-no ever?
Well, we already talked about the apps. And then there's the random word generator devices. I'm not going to give the brand name, but there's one really popular random word generator device out there that people seem to swear by. And really all it is a word bank. And, you can play 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon and draw a connection between, what that random word bank is saying and someone in the room. So, random word generators, just don't waste your time, don't waste your money.
For voice recorders, should they always be digital? Because if somebody's using an old tape one that they've got, sometimes the tapes don't blank out properly because the way they work
if you're
is
going to
they
use an
blank
analog
and then
recorder,
record.
if you're going to use an analog recorder, make sure you're using a fresh tape all the time, every time.
Every time, yeah.
Yeah.
So realistically,
yeah, I don't have a problem going old school sometimes and using analog tape recorders. And I even still, somewhere in a box somewhere, still have my old Polaroid. And Polaroid, I think, is starting to make a comeback.
Yes. There's new cameras out there, but they're ridiculously expensive.
Yeah, and the film cartridges for them are disgustingly expensive. So, back, 20-something years ago when I first started this, it was about $2 a picture. to use the Polaroid, and with in the age of digital technology, you're used to, snapping hundreds of pictures, in a certain scenario, and, using Polaroid, you just can't do that. The nice thing about Polaroid is that it cannot be altered during processing. So unless you scan it and run it through something like Photoshop, if you've got, the original photo that has an anomaly in it, you're golden.
That was actually proven to be false.
Really?
Yeah, that was proven many, many years ago with a UFO case. A lady and gentleman said that they had seen a UFO. I haven't got time to go into the full case now, but there was a case where it was shown that you can actually double expose on a Polaroid. You have to mess with the camera slightly.
Right.
But it can actually be done.
That's interesting. That's very interesting. I had not heard that. I'm going to have to research that. And just one more reason not to use the Polaroid aside from the expense.
The thing was, back in the day, people didn't, the majority of people wouldn't have been able to do that. But
Right.
It's supposed to have been done in one particular UFO case. Yeah.
Very cool. Right. Oh my gosh, we're almost out of time, guys.
Yes. Clarissa, I want to thank you for being such a gracious guest. QVid, I want to thank you for being on with me to interview Clarissa.
You're more than welcome.
And I'd really look forward to the investigations coming up with CCPI and the rest of the team. And
it's going to be a lot of fun. We're excited to have you on the team. We think you're going to bring some great things, some fresh ideas, which you've already brought some fresh ideas to the team. So we're looking forward to having you on the team.
Real quickly, is there any cases that you can talk about, like, real quick?
Nope.
Okay.
Because we have such a strict confidentiality policy, we
Right.
cannot discuss some of our upcoming
Right.
cases.
Okay.
Scariest thing you've seen before you go? What's the scariest thing you've seen?
I haven't really seen anything that has scared the jeepers out of me, but I did have an experience once. We were at a farmhouse location, and there were 10 of us there that night, and every single person was having a personal experience that was custom tailored to their comfort zone, to their threshold. And because I've been doing this for so long, I'm pretty desensitized to everything. So the people that were unnerved by being touched were being touched. The people that were unnerved by hearing voices were hearing voices. And I wasn't having any kind of experience. I was getting really bummed. And so it wasn't until after I got home and I was going over the audio file that I heard an EVP. And earlier in the night, we had to clear a bunch of dead birds out of the wood-burning stove. The house we were in had electricity, but no heat. And so we had to use a wood-burning stove. And in order to use the wood-burning stove, we had to shovel out a bunch of dead birds that were in it. And later that night, we were up in the attic, and I was using a night owl monocular, which is like night vision binoculars, but there was just, there's just one lens. And it doesn't record or anything, but I was using it to look into this attic space, and I thought I saw what was a dead bird on the floor. And it ended up being a piece of crumpled up black garbage bag, just a small piece of black trash bag. And on the audio recorder, you hear me go, "Ew, what is that?" And this voice goes, "Dead bird." And then you hear me ask, "Is there a dead bird in here?" And you hear the other investigators go, "Oh no, I don't know where, And that audio recorder was about 10 feet away from me when that was captured. So, you hear me go, "Ew, what is that?" And it sounds like I'm whispering, but I was so far away from it, I really wasn't. But that's when it dawned on me that whatever was there, because it couldn't unnerve me there, it got in my head. It knew what I thought I was seeing. And so that was my creepiest moment.
Well, thank you again, Q, for being here. Thank you, Clarissa, for letting us interview you. We've reached the end of our show, but be sure to tune in next week when we have our good friend Aubrey Baldwin back on the show. So for QVid, Clarissa, Kat, and the BHM family of hosts and myself, have a good night, stay spooky, and may all you ghosts be friendly.